that I don't recognize that faces that I saw 20 years ago. And that's very telling. And this moment is particularly more urgent than it ever was, because things are getting progressively worse. We're talking about an endless war that is at home and is abroad. When we're talking about 160 million people who live in poverty or close to poverty in the wealthiest country in the world, when we're talking about the United States as the biggest polluter in the world, when we're talking about 800 and more military bases all around the world, we're talking, boo! We have an urgent stake in this war, an urgent stake, because this is for the defense of humanity and the defense of the planet. We cannot stand by and continue to watch the U.S. government, boo! I need you to say boo with me. The Pentagon, these Democrats, these Republicans, we can't allow them to continue to play with our lives, because that is what they're doing. They do not care about Ukraine or the Ukrainian people. Ukraine is the battleground for an imperialist war. And so we need to be clear in defense of life and in defense of the planet. Are we ready to fight? Are we ready to fight? Our fight is the benevolent one. Our fight for life, for humanity, for the safety of the planet is the one that is on the right side of history, which is not the side of the Democrats, and it's not the side of the Republicans. It's not the side of the most conservative forces that want to take over not only this country, but the world. Are we going to let them? No! Are we going to let them? No! We won't let them. No! And we will win. Yes! I am so happy to be co-chairing this rally with my doctor friend, Eugene Puryear. And he's we have a whole list of amazing speakers. Please do make sure you take pictures, take videos, tag, hashtags, do all these things we do. We didn't have all of that in 2003, but now we could actually make this a massive thing rather quickly. This is just the resurgence of an anti-war movement that is grounded on anti-imperialism. That's what we need. We need to be anti-imperialists that are moving forward the agenda of peace. So with that, my brother Eugene.
Well, thank you, Claudia. I'm honored to be here alongside you. I'm honored to be here alongside everybody who is here to say fund people's needs, not the war machine, to stand up when everyone says that you shouldn't stand up, to go against the lies, to go against the demonization, to go against the hatred. This is an event that they didn't even want to happen. The powers that be, whether they be in the White House, whether they be in the Washington Post, whether they be in the Congress, the Federal Reserve, the IMF, the World Bank, the Élysée Palace in Paris, the Whitehall in the UK, none of them want this to be out here. They want people to be confused. They want you to somehow think that it's progressive, that it's good, that it's morally right to spend hundreds of billions of dollars to fight to the last Ukrainian for what? Just for the ability of the United States government to control the whole globe. That's what it's all about. You just have to look at what they write in the National Security Strategy, their own words. That American leadership, they say, is crucial to shape the future of the world. They are giving themselves the right to tell every single other person what to do, and if you don't, they'll sanction you, they'll bomb you, they'll destroy their country, they'll cripple your people, they will end people's dreams and hopes of a better future and a better life. But we are here today to say no, no, no. No more war machine, no more imperialist wars, and certainly no to the proxy war going on right now in Europe. I want to bring to the stage, and before I do, if you are one of the pre-approved individuals who will be speaking here today, make sure you're over here to the left of the stage so we can find you. But I want to bring here to the stage someone who's been a clarion call for peace in many different fora all across this country and has been willing to take it directly to the war makers at the ballot box, Dr. Jill Stein.
Just a quick this side. So if you're standing towards my left, you won't be able to get us the best sound possible. So please move in so that you're able to hear the speakers.
Thank you. This is what democracy looks like. I am just feasting my eyes. This is the energy that we need. We need to build a broad movement across all of our struggles for peace, justice, and democracy, because we are all up against the wall. We are all under attack. It will take all of us to fight back. And I'm so grateful to everyone who's here, because we are the ones we've been waiting for. And today is just our beginning. All these crises that we are facing, of crushing inequality, climate collapse, endless war that's going nuclear, the assault on our democracy, and a big shout out to those brave, valiant protesters at Stop Cop City. That's another place where these crises are all converging. As Martin Luther King told us, these crises are all joined at the hip in what he called the triple evil of racism, militarism, and materialism. We can't fix one without fixing them all. That's why we need a big movement that joins us together, because divided we are conquered, but together we are unstoppable. As Martin Luther King also said 60 years ago, U.S. militarism is the greatest purveyor of violence that the world has ever known. Its wars abroad go hand in hand with its wars at home, targeting working people, the poor, and marginalized. The war machine is impoverishing and endangering all of us. Everyone needs to know that, and it's up to us to help get the word out and educate people to overcome the 24/7 propaganda machine that has really just, numbed people's brains to where they are just sleepwalking. We need to help wake them up. That war machine is costing 2/3 of our discretionary budget when you include the war at home, like DHS and prisons and law enforcement. And we are all in the nuclear target hairs. The costs are off the charts, as you may know, $840 billion, exceeding the next 9 biggest national military spenders combined. Our 250 military interventions in just the last 30 years, 68 plus regime changes since the Second World War, and a staggering 6 million lives lost and 38 million displaced to the U.S. war on terror. And here we are complaining about Russia's war, which, yes, is a horrific war, but it pales in comparison to the war of the U.S. empire, in which this provoked war with Russia, it is just one in a long, endless line of murderous regime change wars provoked by the USA. We must bring them all to a stop. I just want to mention one term, which is very important for educating people. That is full spectrum dominance. Does that ring a bell to anybody? So say after me, full spectrum dominance. Full spectrum dominance. This is the official military policy of the United States, made public going all the way back to 1992, which basically declares that any economic or military competitor will not be allowed to rise, not even to aspire to local prominence. This is what is generating our regime change wars, in particular the war against Russia, to prevent it from becoming even a regional threat. This is also dictating our war against China. And how idiotic can you be to think that we could take on 2 superpowers at once and be driving them together? That plus the incredible nuclear game of chicken that our misleaders are playing, that are putting us all at risk of nuclear war. Did you know that it only takes a handful of these megaton nuclear bombs now? These are not like the Hiroshima bombs of decades ago. These are 1,000 times stronger, and it only takes a handful to basically create nuclear winter that will starve billions of people. So anyone who thinks that the nuclear war happens over there, don't worry about it. You've got another thing to learn. The nuclear war happens to all of us. We need to stop it. We need to stop NATO. We need to stop the U.S. militarism and empire. It's us to do it. As Alice Walker says, the biggest way people give up power is by not knowing that we have it to start it. We have it. We're going to use it. Let's start it today. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Joe, for reminding us that we have a responsibility to shut down all the instruments of war. We got to shut down NATO. We got to shut down Africa. We got to shut down the Southern Command. We got to shut down the 800 plus military bases. We got to stop Cop City. We got to fight back in our neighborhoods against police brutality, against the killing of our people. We got to fight against sanctions. Comrades, we got a lot of work, and we're going to keep on bringing up more of our friends and comrades. We have next Jorge Rocha from DSA, the International Committee.
What's up, Washington? Look at all the beautiful comrades in the crowd today. As mentioned before, my name is Jorge Rocha, and I'm on the steering committee for DSA's International Committee. I'm coming down from New York. Where are my New Yorkers at? Hell yeah. Wow. 20th anniversary of the invasion of Iraq. Surreal, isn't it? 20 years. 20 years of this country whose response to an attack at home is to destroy the rest of the world. 20 years of illegal invasions like those of Iraq and Afghanistan. 20 years of special military operations, interventions, and assassinations throughout all of Latin America, the Middle East, Africa, East Asia, pretty much the rest of the world. 20 years of imposing unilateral coercive measures against so-called enemies of democracy, which is just code for countries that oppose U.S. interests. And yes, 20 years of sowing discord in the world to where we are right now with this war. If this war continues to escalate, then I fear, as everyone else has been bringing up, that we are heading right towards nuclear confrontation. Mr. President, we are here in front of the White House today to make sure you can hear us loud and clear. End this war. Mr. President, do you think we're fools? Do you think we're dumb when you see this nonsense about a weather balloon in the sky? Blowing it up over the Atlantic, making a whole media circus about it? Stop this nonsense Cold War against China. And speaking about interest else in the world, Mr. President, listen to the people of Okinawa. Close the bases. There, everywhere and anywhere. Mr. President, listen to the people of all the countries and the suffering that they're going through. Leave the people of Venezuela and Korea alone. Enough is enough. Mr. President, tear down this embargo against Cuba. 60 years is too long. Finally, Mr. President, we have two words for you. Free Palestine. Free Palestine. Comrades, in the words of a very wise man who we commemorate the 140th anniversary of their death this week, we have nothing to lose but our chains. We have a war to win. Only together can we win. If you are not in an organization, I implore all of you to join one. We can only do this by being organized. The organization I'm part of, DSA, has been doing so much anti-war and internationalist organizing. From the very beginning, we have been against this war. Despite what has been claimed to the contrary, I'm going to read directly from our statement. The Democratic Social, we said it very clearly. First statement, the Democratic Socialists of America condemns Russia's invasion of Ukraine and demands immediate diplomacy and de-escalation to resolve this crisis. There is no solution through wars or further intervention. This crisis requires an immediate international anti-war response demanding de-escalation, international cooperation, and opposition to unilateral coercive measures, militarization, and other forms of economic and military brinksmanship that will only exacerbate the human toll of this conflict. We have been campaigning against further military escalations and for diplomacy. Peace in Ukraine today. We have been doing so much work in terms of international diplomacy, sending delegations to countries like Venezuela. We've met with Maduro. We're proud of it. We've gone to delegations in Peru, Brazil, Bolivia, and we have had incredible success very recently this past week, where the governor of Okinawa met with Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez to discuss Okinawa's opposition to constructing a new military base in the prefecture. DSA was instrumental in making such meetings happen. Be sure to check out DSA at dsausa.org/join. We must build the left and fight the right. No war, but the class war. Thank you.
Give it up for Jorge one more time. You know, we all know that these war drives are also used as an excuse and as a cover for the attempt to brutally repress radical and revolutionary movements, transformative movements right here in this country. Under the guise of being for this or that person, they want to shut up voices that are telling the truth to millions of people around this country. And next I want to bring up one of the voices that this government has decided to target, not because he's doing the wrong thing, but because he's doing the right thing. Chairman Omali Yeshitela of the African People's Socialist Party, the Hands Off Uhuru campaign.
Uhuru! As it has been said, my name is Omali Yeshitela. I'm chairman of the African People's Socialist Party and chairman of the Black is Back Coalition for Social Justice, Peace, and Reparations. On July 29th, at 5 o'clock in the morning, pre-dawn, an army of assault weapons toting, camouflage wearing, military forces identifying themselves as the FBI attacked my home. They used flashbang grenades, armored vehicles. They threatened my life and threatened my wife. They used drones. This was in St. Louis, Missouri, in the most economically depressed sector of that city. At the same time, on the white side of St. Louis, they attacked our movement, Solidarity Movement, and they used battering rams also there, knocked down doors. They held people hostage, handcuffed at gunpoint, as they did me and my wife, whom they handcuffed and zip-tied in front of our homes. They declared that despite the fact that I have been involved in fighting this system for most of the 81 years that I have been alive, despite the fact that I have opposed every predatory war that the United States, which, by the way, is the strategic enemy of all of humanity, despite the fact that I have always done that they have declared that black people are so stupid that it takes Russians to tell us that we are oppressed. I have never known a moment of black freedom for my entire life. I have never read of a moment since the beginning of a colonial mode of production where black people have been free. And yet they're saying that we are agents of some foreign power because we say black people must be free. Because we say Africa must be free. Because we say African people everywhere must be free. And we are here today to tell them that they don't have enough flashbang grenades in their arsenals to stop this struggle of black people and the oppressed peoples of the world to win our freedom. We think it's important to say that. I understand that this particular mobilization is opposed to racism and opposed to bigotry. We say right on. But what we need you to be opposed to is colonialism. Colonialism. Because that is what victimizes African people here and most people around the world. It is the colonial mode of production that this government is attempting to protect. And they were doing so when they attacked my home, pre-dawn, threatened my wife, and also made 4 of us, of my party and the solidarity movement that I lead, unindicted co-conspirators. So they intend to indict us. But our responsibility is to put them on trial. We don't run, we don't cower, we fight back. We fight like hell, we fight back. They have charged me with the very same thing that they charged W.E.B. Du Bois with in 1951. They charged people like Paul Robeson with the very same thing. And we know that the FBI cut its teeth in the war against Marcus Garvey and the Universal Negro Improvement Association. So this is where it gets its origin. This is what it's about. But we are not about yet to fold. I'm calling on you, everybody here, to stand up against colonialism. I'm calling on you in this very brief moment. Go to handsoffUhuru.org. That's UHURU. And I'm calling on you to recognize that where we are standing now is a war crime. That America itself is a war crime. It couldn't exist without what it has done to the indigenous people here. And when I say indigenous people, I'm talking about the people who live in these concentration camps that they characterize as Indian reservations. I'm talking about the people who live in the concentration camps that are recognized as barrios and ghettos throughout this country. I'm talking about people who live in the concentration camps that they protect with walls and other things like that to keep the indigenous people from coming back to this land to recapture what has been stolen from us. So I want to thank you very much. And I want you to recognize that African people here and most of the world, we're happy that you're against racism, but frankly, it doesn't matter because we're not struggling to make anybody like us. We are struggling for power over our own lives. Because once we got power, it doesn't matter whether you like us or not. They don't like Chinese either. But they got to throw out this whole saying that they used to have, you don't have a Chinaman's chance. Because China has more chance than all of us. So the thing is that we are preparing to govern because we cannot be a dignified, self-respecting people until we are able to feed, clothe, and house ourselves. And that is our mission. And that is why we build economic development programs throughout this country. And that is why we are being under attack, because everything that we build for our own selves, it negates the power of the colonizer. And that is why they're attacking us. So I'm saying, come to St. Louis. Take a look for yourself. See how we've transformed the entire African community there. Come to St. Petersburg, Florida. Take a look for yourselves and see what we've done to transform that. And I want to thank you so much for being here. Hands off Uhuru. Hands off Africa. Africa. Israel to Africa. Uhuru.
We fight back and take the power. Right? The war machine kills by the hour. What do? We fight back and take the power. End to colonialism, end to imperialism, shut down all instruments of war. From the Philippines to Palestine to Puerto Rico. From Iraq to Palestine, occupation is a crime. You want to do that with me? From Iraq to Palestine, occupation is a crime. From Iraq to Palestine, occupation is a crime. From Iraq to Palestine, occupation is a crime. That's right, we know who the real criminals are. All right, y'all, so our next speaker is Ria Ortiz. She is from the Filipinos for Genuine Democracy in New York City. We have a whole crew coming up.
Isang taas-kamaong pagbati sa inyong lahat. A raised clenched fist salute to everyone. We are from Filipinos for Genuine Democracy, composed of Filipino migrant workers, domestic workers, labor trafficking survivors, and their children in New York City. In 2002, I stood as a 22-year-old with thousands of protesters in D.C. to stand against the U.S. war on Iraq and U.S. military intervention in other countries, including the Philippines and Palestine. 21 years later, we are still marching here in D.C. to demand peace in Ukraine and immediate negotiations for a peace rather than escalation. We protest against the sending of hundreds of billions of dollars in weapons and other war material to Ukraine from the U.S. government and calling for funding of people's needs, not the war machine. We're marching to recall and remember the 20th anniversary of the invasion of Iraq, and also to remind everyone who were the greatest war makers in the world that the very people preaching self-determination and sovereignty and human rights were the ones who trampled on self-determination and sovereignty and human rights, committing such great war crimes. It's also important to recognize that even though the war appears as a war between Russia and Ukraine, in reality, it is a proxy war between the West and Russia. But we ask, who benefits from this? Who benefits from this? The people of this country don't stand to benefit. The people of Ukraine and Russia don't stand to benefit. It's the military-industrial complex that's benefiting, that's getting tens and billions of dollars in contracts. It's the geostrategic goals of the foreign policy elites of this country who want to preserve a world dominated exclusively by the U.S. at all costs. Meanwhile, the U.S. military are planting 4 more bases in Philippine soil when they already were in 5. Boo! The risks of U.S. enemies retaliating and targeting our home country, the Philippines, become a real and scary threat. It's time for the wars to be brought to an end. We will keep educating, organizing, and mobilizing the Filipino community to stand for peace in Ukraine and no war in the Philippines, Palestine, Syria, and everywhere. Magdibago! Magmatago!
Give it up for our friends one more time. coming to bring the struggle against imperialism in the Philippines. Next, I want to bring up to the stage another longtime fighter for peace who has been all over this country recently telling the truth about what's happening in Ukraine. They've tried to shut her down, but she won't be shut down or shut up. We're very happy to welcome here from CODEPINK, Medea Benjamin.
So raise your hand if you're a Putin apologist. That's what I'm called all over the place. And you know why? Because we want to stop the suffering and the killing, because we care about the Ukrainian people, because we care about the soldiers on all sides, because we want to end the war. We're not Putin apologists, we are peace lovers. We are people who want to see an end to war. So, there's a guy here asking who invaded. You know, I am condemning Russia till I'm blue in the face. Russia should not have invaded Ukraine. It made a horrible mistake. And the U.S. makes a horrible mistake by throwing more fuel into the fire, right? How many billions of dollars of weapons are we going to keep sending? It's been $46 billion of just weapons already. So we send all these different weapons and it's never enough because there is a stalemate, because it is not a winnable war, because this war won't be won on the battlefield, it will be solved at the negotiating table. And I want to know why my own government is sabotaging negotiations. I want to know, when they were close to getting a peace accord back in March, why my government came in and said no. I want to know, when just recently the Chinese came out with a peace plan, why did our government say, absolutely ridiculous? And I want to know, in front of the White House, why Biden can't pick up the goddamn phone and talk to Putin. When we have a war that will only be solved at the negotiating table, I want to know why every single Democrat voted for $40 billion to keep this war going. I want to know why, when now the AP polls say that only 48% of Americans, despite all the war propaganda, only 48% of Americans say they want to send more weapons, why almost every member of Congress and President Biden sends more and more weapons. So what we want to say is that the people in Congress and the White House are not representing us. We have to be louder. Join us with CODEPINK and Peace in Ukraine as we march through the halls of Congress, demanding that they represent us and call for peace talks. Do you know that right now in Congress the word negotiate is a bad word? It's ridiculous. So join us as we pressure the White House and Congress, and join us as we echo the sentiment from around the globe, especially in the global south. Just like President Lula from Brazil said, when he was pushed to send weapons to Ukraine, you know what he said? We don't want to join this war, we want to end this war. So let's say it loud. No more war, peace talks now. No more war, peace talks now. No more war, peace talks now. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Medea. One of the biggest greatest weapons of the U.S. government and elite is the media, right? Corporate media is definitely that. They spread their lies. And the corporate media might as well be their stenographers, right? They just sit there, take notes, and regurgitate everything that the elite and the ruling class want us to think is true. There was a chant that said, "They lie, people die. They lie, people die. They lie, people die. They lie, people die." They lied about weapons of mass destruction. Remember that? Yeah. They created Al-Qaeda, they funded it, and then they were talking about persecuting Osama bin Laden. Right? You remember that? They lied about the horrific terrorist acts they committed against prisoners in Guantanamo. Remember that? Dehumanizing people. They lied about the numbers of casualties of war. Hundreds of thousands of people died at the hands of the U.S. military occupying Iraq. Remember that? And it was not, if it had not been for courageous journalists like Julian Assange, we would not know the truth. But what the U.S. does with people who tell the truth is that they persecute them, they jail them, and if they can, they kill them. We know that history well, very well. And so I want to bring up a friend and comrade, the brother of Julian Assange, Gabriel Shipton. Free Julian Assange!
Hi everyone. I'm here with you today because Julian can't be. He has been detained one way or another for the past 13 years in the United Kingdom. For the past on the 11th of April, it'll be 4 years he's spent in a maximum security prison. He's not serving a sentence. He's convicted of no crime. He is solely there at the request of the US Department of Justice. What did Julian do? He did what journalists should be doing, publishing without fear or favour. He published the truth about 15,000 undocumented civilian deaths in Iraq, a lie that was hid from us so that we would believe that the war was going better than it was. He published the truth about 2 Reuters journalists who were killed by a helicopter gunship in Iraq, and then 2 Good Samaritans who came to save them were also gunned down. He published the truth about a cable from the State Department that detailed the murder of an entire Iraqi family, including 5 children. And then after they were murdered, the soldiers called in an air strike to obliterate that family from the face of the earth to hide their crime. This cable led to the withdrawal of American troops from Iraq, with the refusal of Iraq to re-sign the Status of Forces Agreement. Governments do not willingly reveal their crimes. We need fearless publishers, fearless whistleblowers like Chelsea Manning, like Daniel Hale. Fearless publishers like Julian Assange. What those who are pursuing Julian Assange, those who pursue Julian Assange with lust for revenge, those who pursue him in an effort to make an example of him so that the rest of the world will not publish this national security information. What they have unwittingly created is a worldwide movement for the freedom of Julian Assange, but also a worldwide movement for transparency in government, a worldwide movement for freedom of the press, and a worldwide movement for our right to know what governments do in our name. I'm going to leave you with some words from Julian. If war can be started by lies, then peace can be started by truth. Free Assange.
Free Julian Assange! Free Julian Assange! Free Julian Assange!
Free Julian Assange!
Now!
Free Julian Assange!
Now!
Free Julian Assange!
Now!
Free Julian Assange! Now!
We want to thank Gabriel Shipton, who's traveling all over this country. You know, please look into what they're doing. They're doing a number of different speaking engagements, and please, what you can, and people you know around the country, let them know about what is happening. And I also want to note that we are very honored to have as an endorser of this event, the Leonard Peltier Defense Committee. And we're also here on the 50th anniversary of Wounded Knee, demanding the freedom of Leonard. We're also demanding the freedom of Mumia Abu-Jamal. We're demanding the freedom of all political prisoners who are held behind bars in this country. Free them all. What's the call? Free them all. Next, we want to bring up a longtime struggler from the city of Baltimore, Reverend Annie Chambers.
We're here talking about peace. But do you know where you live at? You live in the United States of America. The United Snakes of America. And there has never been peace. Not since they come here. They came as thieves and robbers and stole and killed, and that's what's happening now. As a woman who's been in the struggle for over 60 years, I'm 81 years old, and I want to tell y'all that I've been in the struggle since I was 14. And fighting for peace and justice. How can we talk about peace and we have our very own people starving in the street, cutting off the food stamps, cutting off of social aid, homelessness, and these are the very people they want to go out and fight for them. We're in the greedy ass America. That's where we are. And only a handful of people control this country. But we have the power to take it back. As a Black Panther, because I never say I'm a former, as a Black Panther, I tell you, we know how to take it back. And we're going to take it back. We will not allow our children to die. Nobody's going to war to fight for the greedy, because only the needy suffer when we fight for the greedy. And we're going to stand up and fight back. That is my message. Stand up, children, and fight back. As long as there's breath in my body. When they ask me when you're going to retire, I say when you can't talk to me no more. When I'm laying down. Okay? Because as long as I got breath, if I can't do nothing but scratch you, I'm going to do that. That's what we got to do. We got to stand up. I tell all the seniors, we support you. I love the young people in America. I don't care what color you are. Because until we all come together, they're going to continue to do the nasty, brutal things they have done. They play racism. They play sexism. They play all the dirty little games on us. But we're going to stand together and be as one. We want justice in America. No more homeless. No. Okay? We're going to stand up and say, we demand that we get people like Sleepy Joe out the White House. Some of y'all young people think about running. And some of y'all think about what it means to have a just and safe country. We go all over the world telling other people about freedom and peace. And we in the worst place in the world. We suffer. We get killed, beat, stumped, and all in America. Okay? We in the revolution. We in the revolution. The revolution has already started. The revolution is here. The revolution is here. We already started. We call it right now. Let you know, this is a revolution, Joe. We're in a revolution. And we're fighting against injustice. And we're talking about peace all over the world. But let's start right here in the belly of the beast. America! Peace, brothers and sisters. I love you. Continue to struggle. It's Minister Malcolm. I'm a product of Minister Malcolm X. Fought right side him. And I want you to know, we for nothing but peace and justice. But you got to give it to me, for I think, I know you're not going to give it to me. So we about to take it. We're going to take peace now. Revolution! Revolution! Revolution now!
Give it up for Reverend Chambers. She brought the word. She brought the word. The hypocrisy of the United States, the United Snakes of America. All right, y'all. The next person coming up is Chris Lee Carpio for Students for Democratic Society. Give it up for Charlie Carpio. She's coming. They say get back.
We say fight back.
They say get back.
We say fight back.
Money for school and education.
Not for war and occupation.
Money for jobs and education.
Not for war and occupation.
Thank you, everyone. I'm here as Chris Lee Carpio from Students for Democratic Society. I hope you know who they are. We are the group that students founded in the 70s, the 60s to say no to the unjust U.S. invasion of Vietnam when students were getting beat in the streets, beat at the White House in the hundreds of thousands, to say no to unjust war. We refounded in 2006 in the face of the invasion of Afghanistan and Iraq. We are still here. We are now new Students for a Democratic Society, and we've been standing against this new beating of the war, of the drums of war against Russia and the U.S. interventions in Ukraine since last year. We've been having hands-off Russia protests, no to NATO protests since last year. We've been confronting police at all those events, and we still want to make sure that the U.S. government knows, as long as they continue these wars, students will still be out in the streets. It doesn't matter how many of us that they beat. It doesn't matter how many of us that they shove. We are still going to make our voices heard and bring it to campus. And they've been bringing this disgusting propaganda to our campuses as well and polluting our campuses with it. They've been starting or trying to start CIA programs to recruit Arab and Chinese students at the University of Illinois, Chicago to do their dirty work for them. Shame, that's right. You know why that program is gone? Because students protested it for 2 years. Woo! And it shows that this works. Us showing our democracy by standing out in the movement, it is what works. That's right. So we think that instead of funding these bogus wars, what the U.S. government should be doing is understanding that we need to actually be fighting for our education and saving it. I'm here with Tampa Bay Students for a Democratic Society. We've been having protests against Governor Ron DeSantis' evil war on multicultural programs, Black history in schools, our attempts to increase Black enrollment in schools. And 2 Mondays ago, myself and my fellow students were beat and shoved and charged and arrested by the police, the campus University of South Florida PD, in
man. It's disgusting. And in fact, I stand here also as a member of the Tampa Bay 4, the SDS 4 students who were not only arrested and brutalized, but are now being charged with felonies and misdemeanors. And we say that we did nothing wrong. In fact, we did what students everywhere should be doing. And we just want everyone to know that Students for a Democratic Society, despite the brutality that we faced, we stand here to say no to NATO, no to this U.S. war, and Students for a Democratic Society will be part of this fight every step of the way. So thank you, everybody. And now here I'll have one of our students lead a chant.
Yes. Lead a chant. Money for jobs and education, not for war and occupation. Money for jobs and education, not for war and occupation. Money for jobs and education, not for war and occupation. Money for jobs and education, not for war and occupation.
All right, give it up for Students for a Democratic Society. How y'all feeling out here? Y'all feeling all right? I said, y'all feeling all right? I want the war makers to be able to hear you. Are you feeling all right? Okay, I was just checking to make sure. You know, I don't even know if Biden is in there, but if he is, he definitely heard that. Because we're here to say no to this war machine, this endless war machine. And next, I want to bring to the stage, from Life After Release, Afeni Evans.
When I say hands up, you say fight back. Hands up!
Fight back!
Hands up!
Fight back!
Hands up!
Fight back!
Hands up!
Fight back!
Good afternoon, y'all. My name is Afeni. I'm a community organizer with Life After Release, and I'm also an anti-war Army veteran. We are here to demand peace in Ukraine and to the end and an end to the toxic militarism that is destroying people's lives and our planet. America is a country where 1 in 5 children under the age of 5 are insecure, and they are cutting food stamps because we can't afford it. Yet, on March 9th, 2023, the Biden administration proposed a fiscal year 2024 budget that asked Congress to give the military-industrial complex $842 billion. They sell us a false dream that they are protecting women in other countries, while the bodily autonomy of women in this country is being stripped from us. They say that one of the reasons why we have to beat Russia, why we have to unseat Vladimir Putin, is to protect trans and queer people in Russia. And there are over 350 bills criminalizing trans youth and trans people across this goddamn country. The U.S. is the world's largest polluter, partly because our military and Biden just approved the Willow Project. The International Criminal Court has issued an arrest warrant for Vladimir Putin. And fine, I'm not here to defend his actions, but I want to ask, when is the ICC coming to pick up George W. Bush? When the hell they gonna come get Dick Cheney? Hillary Clinton, Henry Kissinger old ass, and they can go ahead and send a warrant down to hell to get Colin Powell too. Last time I checked, there are American politicians with over 1 million Iraqis' blood on their hands right now. We spent $300 million per day, every day, for 20 years in Afghanistan, just to leave them in ruin and starve their people through unjust sanctions. Unsuccessful war after unsuccessful war. Vietnam, Iraq, Afghanistan. We're funding a dirty war in Yemen, dropping bombs in Somalia. We dropped bombs the same day Russia invaded Ukraine. We were bombing Somalia, and the news said nothing about it. We have been escalating tensions with countries like Iran and China for simply trying to while trying to continue our armed stranglehold on the international economy. Let's be clear. NATO pushed the United States and NATO pushed by the United States instigated and continued to fan the flames of warfare in Ukraine. Adam Schiff said himself on the House floor that we fight Russia over there so we don't have to fight them over here. pipelines, dumping millions of oils and gas into our oceans. We have been backing this war and filling the flames of violence this whole time. War is causing irreparable harm to our planet, and it is a bipartisan effort to back this destruction. No one in any country, anywhere, including Somalia, Yemen, Syria, Palestine, or Ukraine, should have their homes blown apart. We condemn the illegal invasion of Ukraine while also condemning NATO aggression. We can acknowledge the choice of a people to secede from a country that they were forced to be in, while also acknowledging that we must strive to end all war. Our leaders are willing to sacrifice our lives and our planet in order to keep wealth and power. We can and we must fight back. Hands up! Fight back! Hands up! Fight back! Hands up! Fight back! Hands up! Fight back! Thank you.
Thank you so much, Afeni. That was powerful. The United States holds the highest number of people incarcerated. Boo! A lot of these crimes are connected to poverty. Poverty is the crime. The war on the poor is a crime. So thank you so much, Afeni. Thank you so much for bringing that message. So up next we got Margaret Kimberley. Give it up. We always like our journalists doing the right thing for the right cause. Welcome, Margaret, from Black Agenda Report.
Hey there. Power to the people. Power to the people. And stop Cop City. I'm very honored to have been asked to speak for the United National Anti-War Coalition. Give it up for UNAC. You know, I have deja vu. 20 years ago, at this time in March, and I'm sure many of you, we marched to try to stop the invasion of Iraq, a war crime. Now, yesterday, the International Criminal Court issued an arrest warrant for Vladimir Putin, saying he's a war criminal. But Bush and Cheney walk free. So do Clinton and Obama and Trump and Biden, who've all gotten a pass after they killed people in Iraq, Afghanistan, Serbia, Libya, Somalia, Yemen, and Haiti. Where I know there's so many countries, right? But we want to end that. And the theft of money, $100 billion for Ukraine to wage this proxy war. And we don't want a war against China either. So you got to watch some of these folks who claim to be against a war in Ukraine. They want to go to China and get us in another fight against a nuclear-powered nation. But that's going to be true as long as we have imperialism. There's going to be one long forever war as long as this is an imperialist country. That's why we have an $800 billion defense budget. But we don't have health care and housing as human rights. The two are antithetical. You cannot have human rights respected when you have a country that is one gigantic war machine. And I just want to say also, we have to think about the other wars, AFRICOM, SOUTHCOM, INDOPACOM, as the U.S. tries to control the entire world. But we will liberate ourselves from war when we liberate ourselves from the oligarchy. Thank you so much. Power to the people. And stop Cop City. Thank you.
Give it up one more time for Margaret Kimberley. I hope y'all are reading Black Agenda Report, and shout out to the United National Anti-War Coalition as well for helping to build this demonstration and bring people from all across this country. And we really are from every single nook and cranny of the United States. People have come from so many different, from Maine. I mean, people have come from hours and hours, Atlanta, you know, the Miami, Los Angeles. So I thank you all, and I'm not going to list them all. I know it's too many, and I'm sorry I forgot you. North Carolina, I saw some folks here. Detroit, LA, all of them. Philadelphia. Okay, I hear you, Sister Sancho. I know. Next, I want to bring up Brian Becker, the National Director of the Answer Coalition.
Sisters and brothers, I want to talk a little bit about what's going to happen the rest of today, because what we're doing today, I believe, will be remembered as something that's quite historic, something very profound, a commitment, a determination on our part to build a new anti-war movement at a moment when the forces within the military-industrial complex and the leadership of both the Republican and the Democratic Party have, without debate, adopted as a consensus position that the U.S. should be prepared and prioritize major power conflict. This means that the war in Ukraine, which did not really begin simply with the Russian military intervention on February 24th, 2022, but many years earlier than that, including the fascist-led coup d'etat of February 2014 to bring Ukraine into NATO. This is a proxy war, but it's a dress rehearsal for a bigger war that the U.S. intends to wage to weaken Russia, to topple its government, to go to war and have confrontation with China, to topple the Communist Party of China, inside of China. And just think about the dimensions of the madness here. The United States could not defeat the Taliban in Afghanistan after 20 years, so let's go to war with the People's Republic of China and Russia. Think of the magnitude of that craziness, and yet there's no debate. Look at the mainstream media, the corporate media. They'll describe this demonstration as the far left or Russian apologists or something like that to demonize us like they demonized the Russians, like they demonized the Chinese, like they demonized the Syrians, like they always demonize the Palestinians, like they demonize the Iraqis and the Cubans and the Venezuelans and anyone who wants to be free and independent from the empire. So we're at a crossroads, and today I hope all of you will march together with us. We're going to bring coffins. We're going to do this in a few minutes, so be prepared for this march. This is what's going to happen the rest of the day. We're going to take these flag-draped coffins, Syria, Afghanistan, Yemen, Palestine, Russia, Ukraine, Yemen, Syria, and people from the United States as well, who are the needlessly killed, murdered people by the empire during the past 20 years. And we're going to first go to the White House, and we're going to say to the White House, you are guilty. You are guilty. You are responsible for these deaths. It's not the Syrians, the Palestinians, the Russians, the Chinese. It's the government that speaks in our name. And then we're going to go a few blocks away to the Washington Post, the neocon media that promotes lies, that spoon feeds war propaganda, and say to the Washington Post, we know who you are. You're not journalists. You're an echo chamber for the war machine, and you too are guilty for the deaths of all of these people. That's a short march. It's a short march, but then we're ending with an indoor event at the beautiful and historic New York Avenue Presbyterian Church, a place where the forces for abolition against slavery gathered in 1860 and 1861 and during the Civil War. And we're going to hear additional speakers, including Noam Chomsky, who is the renowned speaker and linguist who has led so much in exposing manufactured consent. So sisters and brothers, we're going to have a couple more wrap-up speakers here. We're going to carry these coffins to the White House. We'll have a short ceremony there. We're going to march to the Washington Post and then to New York Avenue Presbyterian Church. We need all of you to stay with us for these next 90 minutes to show we mean it. We're determined. We're going to build a new movement. This movement is not ending today. This movement is beginning today. It's the most important movement that could possibly be built. Down with the war makers, down with the war machine. Fund people's needs, not the war machine. And let's stand together to say no to colonialism, no to racism, no to the oppression of women, no to the oppression of the LGBTQ community. Say yes to the disabled movement and all of those sectors who are under attack by the same wretched capitalist system. Thank you, brothers and sisters.
Give it up for Brian Becker. Are you ready to march? Oh, we are getting ready to march. It's going to be a beautiful one. Okay, familia. So next up, we got Jackie Lookman from the Black Alliance for Peace coming up. Give it up for my sister and comrade, Jackie Lookman.
This ain't a church service, but it needs to be a revival.
Okay, Jackie.
I'm not going to pray, ain't going to be no scriptures, but this is what I need y'all to do. I need you to turn to the person on your left and say like you mean it, I will fight for you. Now I need you to turn to the person on your right and say like you mean it, I will fight for you. And then if you can do it, I need you to turn all around, brothers and sisters, and say to the person standing behind you, I will fight for you. Because let me explain something to you about this fight that we are in, brothers and sisters. There's a narrative out there that says that we're only supposed to be focused on ending this one war in Ukraine and every other evil thing the United States government does with its imperialist, bloodthirsty planning and actions and bombings and interventions and coups d'etats, everything this government does around the world and in our communities here, those things don't matter. All we need to do is end this war in Ukraine. That's the big deal. That's the thing we need to focus on. But let me explain something to you. This capitalist system is at the foundation of every evil thing that comes out of this White House and the Congress that creates the policies. And capitalism exists, it grew, and it thrives on the exploitation of people who are different from the folks who hold the power. So capitalism continues to exploit black people in ways that it doesn't exploit working class white people. That don't mean working class white people ain't getting their ass kicked. It just means we getting our ass kicked a little worse in a different way. Capitalism exploits and denigrates LGBTQ and trans people in a different way from the way black folks are being exploited. Women are exploited in a different way under capitalism than men are. And black women and Latino women are exploited with that fabulous triple oppression under a capitalist system. So explain to me, y'all, how we are supposed to end war if we don't destroy capitalism. How do we end wars that are fought in the name of capitalist profit? Warmongers manufacturers making trillions off of the broken bones and bodies of black, brown, indigenous people around the world, working class and poor peasant people around the world. They don't do it because they legitimately hate these people. They don't do it because these people are a threat to our freedoms. They do it for capitalist profit. And they do that around the world for the same reason that a high percentage of black folks are still poor in this country, that working class and poor folks in Appalachia are poor, that black trans women suffer the highest rate of homelessness and unemployment in this country. Those are all the reasons that capitalism stays in place, because our exploitation, our different and unique oppression and exploitation all feeds and props up the same capitalist machine that exports war around the world. So reject anybody who comes to you and tells you that all we need to do is focus on ending this one war in Ukraine. Yes, this war in Ukraine must end, but let's not forget the 15,000 ethnic Russians who were slaughtered for 8 years by the neo-Nazi infused Ukrainian army. Let's not forget those people. And as we take to the streets, let us not forget, don't you forget the people that you turned to and said you would fight for. You made a commitment. We're not out here just to end war. We're not out here just to bring peace in Ukraine. We are out here to challenge and work within the empire to destroy the capitalist system that makes all of our suffering possible. And we do it for peace, absolutely, but we do it so that we all can have a future we can live in. So I want you to think about this as we move to the streets. And this is what we talk about every day on By Any Means Necessary on Radio Sputnik. It's the work we do in the Black Alliance for Peace, where we're aligning and getting behind the CELAC Zone of Peace. If you want to know more about that, we'll be at the church. We'll have materials for you. But I want you to think about this. When we come together like this, do not let this day be the last time you show up at a mobilization for peace. Do not let this be the last time you fight for your fellow brothers and sisters. This needs to be a revival. Don't let this be an incident. Don't let this be an event. Let this be a revival and commit to stand, to fight, and to fight together for human rights. Say it with me. We stand. We fight. We fight together for human rights. We stand.
We fight.
We fight together for human rights. We stand.
We fight. We fight together for human rights.
We stand.
We fight. We fight together for human rights.
Thank you very much. A luta continua. The struggle continues. But I promise you, if you keep struggling, brothers and sisters, Victoria, certa. Victory is certain. Peace.
Give it up one more time for Jackie Lukeman. Give it up one more time for the Black Alliance for Peace. And I see we are getting ready to move. We have a couple more speakers. And then don't forget, on the second end of this, we're going to hear from Noam Chomsky. We're going to hear about the struggle of the Eritrean people. We're going to hear about the brutal sanctions on Syria that are making it impossible for people to recover from this earthquake. So we have a lot more in addition to this march. I just want to know, are you with us? Are you ready to stay in the streets? Are you ready to show them the power of our movement? Well, next up, I want to bring one of the most powerful figures in our movement to the microphone, Margaret Flowers from Popular Resistance. Give it up for Margaret!
How's everybody doing? It's a beautiful day. At Popular Resistance, we work to connect the struggles through shared campaigns and understanding the root causes of the crises that we face. We know that war, in all of its forms, sanctions, military invasions, illegal economic blockades. These types of things, all of them are done to protect the interests of the wealthy. The COVID-19 pandemic gave us a glimpse of what could be. It showed us the deep racism, the deep inequities in our society, but it also gave us a glimpse of what it could mean when people get checks, when people have their mortgages, payments stalled, evictions, moratorium on evictions, student loans frozen. These are the things that we could have and that we should have. The war on Ukraine and the recent bank failures showed us that when it comes to the interests of the rich, there's always enough money. But we know there's enough money in the United States to meet the needs of the people, to protect the planet. And we also know that we have to fight for it. We must fight for it by shutting things down, through boycotts, BDS, Free Palestine. By withholding our labor, we have the power to win the things that we need. So we say to the railroad corporations, if you won't guarantee safety, if you won't protect the workers, shut them down. We say to the health insurance corporations and the pharmaceuticals, if you deny us health care, shut them down. We say to the fossil fuels, if you come into our communities to extract gas or oil, we're going to shut you down. And if you try to build a paramilitary police base in our forest, we're going to shut you down. If our state legislatures pass laws denying the rights of trans people, we are going to shut them down. And like our comrades in the United Kingdom targeting Albert, Palestine Action to the weapon makers, we say, shut them down. This is our fight. We're in this together. We can win. Let's march.
We're not going to march quite yet, but I appreciate you, Margaret. Give it up for Margaret Flowers one more time. But we have a very important speaker to close us out, from one of the critical struggles that is happening in this world today. That's the struggle of the Palestinian people against apartheid, for their own land, for their own sovereignty, for their own freedom. They are steadfast in fighting every single day, no matter what they're up against. And I'm honored to have here with us from the Palestinian Youth Movement, our brother Mohammed, to come speak to you about the struggle.
Hello everyone, my name is Mohammed, and this is Zaid and Raya, and we're here. I'm very honored to be here representing the Palestinian Youth Movement. We're an independent transnational grassroots movement of Palestinian and Arab youth in the diaspora who are organizing for the liberation of our lands from imperialism and settler colonialism. And like many of my comrades in the PYM, the barbaric US invasion of Iraq was a defining moment for me. As children, we all watched the horrors unfold in Iraq, a country that we knew had natural wealth, ancient history, and a steadfast people. The US invasion of Iraq represented not only the ruthless violence of the US empire, but also its imperialist thievery, with the US using the invasion to rob Iraq of its resources, to amass profits for the US empire, through the death and destruction of our lands and people. This is a cycle that continues today and will continue unless we, the people, can organize to put an end to the empire's endless wars. Not only did the US intervention destroy Iraq under the false premises which Iraqis are still reeling from today, but the US's global war on terror had its counterpart here too. In 2002, we saw the opening of Guantanamo Bay detention camp, which has held hundreds of prisoners since its opening, including several Iraqi prisoners. Heavy surveillance on mosques and religious institutions crippled our communities here and eventually culminated into the CVE and spying programs we see all around the country. And so many Muslims have been captured and thrown into the prison system as a result. And now, 20 years later, our people still are reeling from the impacts of the US invasion. The effects of that senseless war are still rippling today. But why Iraq? Because Iraq did not fit into the US imperialist designs for the region. It was strangled with crippling sanctions that left hundreds of thousands of civilians dead for 13 years before the invasion even began. Today, the U.S. is still strangling non-compliant nations across the world with sanctions, which are an act in and of themselves, let's be clear, from Cuba to Syria to Iran to Venezuela and now Russia and China, and the list goes on. Here we are 2 decades later, still fueling endless wars around the globe. The U.S.'s proxy war with Russia has cost the Ukrainian people immeasurable suffering as the imperial cheerleaders inch ever closer to nuclear conflict, the delusional state of maintaining U.S. hegemony on end forever. And while the U.S. strangles our people that funnel billions of dollars worth of arms imperial collaborators, Washington bullets and bombs rain on Yemen and Palestine as it comically claims the mantle of freedom's greatest defender. The Palestinian youth movement understands that our fight for the liberation of our land from Zionism is part of the fight against imperialism. Both U.S. parties support the Zionist state and give it $3 billion each year precisely because the Zionist state is central to U.S. and Western imperialism. Israel acts as a strategic ally for the U.S. in their pursuit of endless wars, death, and destruction. This relationship is no accident. The Zionist thinkers who established the colonial state of Israel were clear from the beginning that their project was a reflection of Western colonial interests. The Zionist state was made possible only through British imperialism and colonialism, and continues today to be sustained through U.S. and Western imperialism. For more than 100 years, Palestinians have struggled against Zionist colonialism and Western imperialism. And today we're here to continue the struggle. We call for an end to all U.S. wars, an end to arms sales to the Zionist regime, an end to the sanctions on Cuba, Venezuela, Syria, Iran, and any other nation being punished for putting its people before imperialism. We join our people back home who, as we speak, are rising against Zionist colonialism and saying, long live international solidarity. Free, free Palestine! Free, free Palestine!
We're going to move to March, so I want to give you some directions, but I want to remind you we're going to march, then we're going to be at New York Avenue Presbyterian Church, and we're going to hear from the struggle of the people of Guam, fighting on the front lines of U.S. militarism. We're going to hear from the people of Hawaii, fighting the war machine, destroying their population. We're going to hear from the people of Eritrea about the attempts to sanction and isolate them. We're going to hear from the people of Syria about their attempt to break these sanctions. So now we want to move in this direction. There are 2 banners there. We're going to march straight down in this direction. We have the coffins in front, and the banners directly behind the banners. If you just line up along some brick roads, I guess you can call it that, right here. That'll get you where you need to go as the march moves out. So line up if you can. Let's see if we can flow out in one line. We want to try to flow out as orderly as we can so that the mass, the breadth and depth of the demonstration is clear to everyone who is watching. So stay tight, stay strong.
We're live on the
direction. I thank you. Let's take it to the streets.
All right. Yeah, we sure do. We want to introduce Gabriel Shipton, who is the brother of Julian Assange, and we're here as CODEPINK supports Free Julian Assange. 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 Free Julian Assange.
Okay, wait.
So,
we're gonna pull Olivia and just rush through everything.
Yeah, let's get the banner first, and then we be behind it.
Okay, at some point, what I'm gonna do is give this to someone and then tweet it. Like,
that's perfect. My housemates.
I think, as expected, will get here at the very end. Very glad to know. Half of them are from south.
I'll be at the house eventually.
Yes, and very much late to everything.
And this is Patrick,
hello,
amazing movement activist in the world.
Patrick's helping us with the live stream. I just put it stuff.
Oh, you're Patrick. I've heard a lot about you. So nice to meet you. I'm Sam. Are you recording? Should I I'm on camera. I am Sam Carliner, CODEPINK's social media manager, and super hyped that so many people are here today. So many great speeches. Follow CODEPINK on Twitter for live tweeting, featuring the speakers, the contingents, the chants, and yeah, peace in Ukraine. Fund people's needs, not the war machine.
Hey, Patrick. Hey.
Very
Your video.
I think everything I'm good at, it's a whole dilemma.
That's yours. Right.
Oh, yeah. Are we getting our balloon?
It's 27th through May 3rd. Okay. Yeah.
Okay, actually,
Oh, sorry.
Carol.
CODEPINK is where's the code?
Behind the wing one.
Okay.
Actually, yeah. If you
14.
you have just succinctly summarized my failed novel.
The parking contingent?
It's just one crisis after another. We need to be ready.
Okay, this is
Money for jobs and education. War and occupation. 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 Money for jobs and education. Not for war and occupation. Money for jobs and education. Not for war and occupation. Money for jobs and education. Not for war and occupation.
I'm following you.
This is very, very sensitive to stuff for some reason.
The people united will never be defeated.
Like he's offered, like if you see
U.S. and here. Hey, it's been a while. Yeah. Like I said, are you with BSN? No, I'm my own, but I agree with Eugene, so, you know. Great. Vicky!
Free Palestine! Free Palestine!
They might be up there.
Oh, cool. I always see him wherever I go. Say something to somebody somewhere.
Hey, so we're out here in the heart of the belly of the beast with anti-war groups, environmental groups, racial and immigrant justice groups here on the 20th anniversary of the invasion of Iraq. And we are in front of the White House right now delivering coffins that represent several of the many U.S.-backed wars that are happening, and we are here in support. We want the U.S. the war to end in Ukraine, the war to not start against China. I'm also commemorating people who have lost their lives to war from Afghanistan to Iraq, Somalia, Palestine, and Yemen, and to stop the war machine and stop funding these endless wars, and instead take care of the people's needs. We have people out here with signs for healthcare, childcare, housing, livable wages, climate justice. So yeah, we're headed to the White House now.
U.S. imperialist! Number one terrorist! 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 U.S. imperialist! From the river to the sea, Palestine will be free! From the river to the sea, Palestine will be free! From the river to the sea, Palestine will be free! From the river to the sea, Palestine will be free! From the river to the sea, Palestine will be free! From the river to the sea, Palestine will be free! From the river to the sea, Palestine will be free! Palestine will be free! Fighting for jobs and education! Not for war and occupation! Fighting for jobs and education! Not for war and occupation! Fighting for jobs and education! Not for war and occupation! Fighting for housing and non-indoctrination! Not for war and occupation! Fighting for homes and education! Not for war and occupation! Fighting for homes and education! Not for war and occupation!
they gotta go first.
From the river to the sea, Palestine will be free. From the river to the sea, Palestine will be free. From the river to the sea, Palestine will be free. From the river to the sea, Palestine will be free. From the river to the sea, Palestine will be free. From the river to the sea, Palestine will be free. From the river to the sea, Palestine will be free. From the river to the sea, Palestine will be free.
Way too fast.
It's a sprint up there.
I know, we need to slow it down.
I got out of breath.
Okay, Hoover's at 14 and K is blocked. Nothing should be coming southbound on 14. Not another nickel, not another dime. No more money for Zelensky. Coke line. Not another dime. No more money for Zelensky's coke line.
It was good money.
Free, free. That's why I'm back here. Nothing more than occupation. We need the transition.
Here, want me to talk a little bit? Is it on? So we're heading now from the White House to the Washington Post, calling out the media, the corporate-backed media, who is funded by the big weapons manufacturers like Lockheed Martin, Raytheon, to report on what the people's needs, to end these endless wars, to fund what the people want, and to stop being in bed with the fossil fuel industry and the weapons manufacturers who make profits off of war. So we're calling them to be accountable and to stop the propaganda that just perpetuates war.
NATO and the USA. Biggest threat to the world today. NATO and the USA. Biggest threat to the world today. NATO and the USA. Biggest threat to the world today. NATO and the USA. Biggest threat to the world today. NATO and the USA. Biggest threat to the world today. NATO and the USA. Never retreat. U.S. imperialists. Never retreat. U.S. imperialists. 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 Education, not for war and occupation. For Jordan education, not for war and occupation. For Jordan education,
Not for war and occupation.
I agree.
Not for war and occupation.
I think it's worse in a lot of ways because
Not for war and occupation. Not for war and occupation. Not for war and
the people united will never be defeated. Will never be defeated. Will never be defeated. Will never be defeated.
We'll never be defeated. We'll never
Obviously, as you can see, we are here in front of the Washington Post. Guess I wanted to see what kind of response that got. Let's see if they even cover this event, but we came right to their front doors. They don't have an excuse. But I think it's incredibly important, and for those who can't see, we have the coffins behind us to recognize that the Post, one of many perhaps, but one of the most significant, has been one of the premier entities that has pushed this unbelievable war propaganda, not just around Ukraine, but on almost every issue, certainly around the issue of Iraq. Now, of course, the New York Times gets the worst sort of history there, but the Washington Post was right along with them. The Pentagon Post, as it's been determined. Not to mention, this is one of the primary voices for gentrification and police terrorism in all of Washington, D.C. Anytime the police in Washington, D.C. want to bring the war right here at home to oppress working class black communities, no matter what the justification they offer, the Post makes sure that they echo it. We've just seen recently how the Post has been complicit in a 2-year-long campaign to promote an unbelievable U.S.-backed war inside of northern Ethiopia and Eritrea. They told lies then, they've told lies about Ukraine, they've told lies about Iraq, they've told lies about Palestine. Now I'm sure if they came out here, they tried to say, well, hey, we told the truth a few times too. But that's just a cover to make it easier to promote an agenda of war, an agenda of imperialism, an agenda of racism, an agenda of gentrification right here in Washington, D.C. The whole editorial board lives in Maryland, but they want to tell people in D.C. how to live. When you look at these right-wingers and racists in Congress who just overrid the laws here in Washington, D.C. to say that you can't have the laws you want, the Washington Post backed them. So whether it's the war at home or the war abroad, you can count on the Washington Post to be a warmonger and to be a liar and to look for every possible reason to tell you something other than the truth.
That's right. That's right. That's right. That's right.
So we're here to let them know that whether they cover it or not, whether they write about it or not, we're not going to stop struggling. We're not going to stop pushing. We're not going to stop fighting. That's exactly why we have our own independent media. You can see many of the journalists who are gathered here today because we're not going to wait on the stenographers of empire to tell our stories. We're going to tell our own stories, including this huge crowd that you see out here today. A crowd that many people should not want. So when they say this was just a crowd of people out here apologizing for some other country, we're going to tell the real story that we're out here standing up for the people of every country that are under the boot of this U.S. military war machine. So we say fund people's needs, not the war machine. No to a proxy war in Ukraine now. Remember Iraq, no more Iraqs. We are against the unbelievable interventions happening all across the African continent, the drone war in Niger, and all across the Sahel. We're going to stand up to militarism, stand up to the military-industrial complex, stand up to the war machine, and keep fighting. Are you with us?
We're with you, Stein!
Are we together?
We're together!
Are we going to keep fighting?
We're going to keep fighting!
Well, let's keep marching! Money for jobs and education!
Money for jobs!
Money for jobs and education.
Not for war and occupation.
Money for jobs and education.
Not for war and occupation.
Money for jobs and education.
Not for war and occupation.
The war machine has got to go!
Money for jobs and education. Not for war and occupation. Money for jobs and education. Not for war and occupation. Money for jobs and education. Not for war and occupation. Money for jobs and education. Not for war and occupation. Money for jobs and
For the Peace Action Committee of the Green Party. To be the salary of the president. Okay, what's your
How do you spell fascist? N-A-T-O. How do you spell terrorist? N-A-T-O. How do you spell racist? N-A-T-O. How do you spell fascist? N-A-T-O. How do you spell terrorist? N-A-T-O. How do you spell racist? N-A-T-O. How do you spell fascist? N-A-T-O. How do you spell terrorist? N-A-T-O. How do you spell fascist? N-A-T-O. How do you spell racist? N-A-T-O. How do you spell fascist? N-A-T-O. U.S. war has got to go. Hey, hey.
I'm from Philly-ish. And Philly, what's up? Yeah! And I'm a musician, which means that I'm totally broke and deeply, deeply in debt. And I just found out the other day that the money we've spent on sending weapons to Ukraine this year would have funded the NEA, the National Endowment for the Arts, for 500 years. So I'm here as a music worker and as a socialist to say, end all wars and interventions. Mama, it's a disaster, going faster and faster, and all of my heroes turning out to be bastards. Ain't no peace to be found in this company town, 'cause the house will keep winning till we burn the house down. So while my friends in the streets tonight, we go singing. All my friends who are down and out, we go fight. Our friends in the other, all our ways, all our love, and if you to fight down the streets tonight, study hard to write, 'cause we ain't keeping quiet. But if you've been listening, we know you don't buy it. And you say you've been stealing, but who's the real villain? When we can't even make a living, they're out there making a killing. All my friends in the streets tonight, we go singing. All my friends who are down and out, we gonna fight. All our friends in the other world, all our ways, all our love, and if you choose to fight down in the streets tonight, well, they can knock themselves and they can knock us down. We're the ones who run this town. We're gonna shout it out till we make a face. We're the ones who own this place. They can lock us up and they can knock us down. We're the ones who run this town. We're gonna shout it out till we make a face. We're the ones who own this place. So all my friends in the streets tonight, we go singing. All my friends who are down and out, we gonna fight. All our friends in the other world, all our ways, all our love, and if you choose to fight down in the streets tonight, down in the streets tonight, down in the streets tonight. Brand new song about imperialism, honestly. Can you please get close and cozy with each other? Just scooch on in, and especially people that need to sit down, let's make sure they get a seat. So if you need to sit down, go up to a friendly face and say, can I squeeze in there with you, my dear friend?
somewhere. And folks could also start going up to the balcony. You don't need to be standing around. There's space upstairs. So folks can usher you to where you need to go to be able to get upstairs. For many of us growing up, this man was a reference in relationship to what was going on in the world. So we want to show a short video from Nam Chomsky. There are obviously people in our lives and in our world that have fought for many decades, and we have to acknowledge those people. So we want to put up the protection. Ryan's going to help us with that. It's a little bait.
It's Chomsky.
The Russian invasion of Ukraine will be brought to an end in one of two ways, either by defeat of one side or by a diplomatic settlement. That much at least should be beyond debate. Let's turn to fact. The United States has a definite explicit policy is normally to continue the war in order to severely weaken Russia. It's also claimed to place Ukraine in a stronger position for eventual negotiations, or in a weaker position. Strong likelihood that's quietly ignored. That's the position of the United States and Britain, some variation, their European allies. The rest of the world, overwhelmingly, is calling for a diplomatic settlement to end the horrors before they become even worse. And it will become worse. First of all, from Ukraine. It's already lost tens of thousands of soldiers, suffered severe economic damage, severe, though it's worth remembering, nothing like the U.S.-British shock and awe style of war, which goes straight for the jugular, demolishing energy, transportation, communication, anything that keeps society functioning. No heads of state visited Baghdad while the United States and Britain were demolishing it. The bitter costs of war are, of course, not limited to Ukraine and to the Russian invaders. Millions are facing starvation as grain, fertilizer supplies are curtailed from the rich Black Sea region. Food prices soar along with the profits of the handful of multinationals that dominate the food system. It's all too easy to envision steps up the escalation ladder to terminal nuclear war. Maybe most serious of all in the long term, the limited steps to address imminent environmental catastrophe have reversed, may turn out to be the death knell for organized human life on Earth. It's far too little discussed, but the U.S.-British stance entails a ghastly gamble with the fate of Ukraine or beyond. The gamble is that if the demented madman Putin faces defeat, he will quietly pack his bags, slink away to oblivion or worse, and will not use the conventional weapons that we all know he has to emulate the U.S. and Britain, or Israel and Gaza, and devastate Ukraine, including Kiev and the western areas that have so far been mostly spared. A moment's thought should suffice to reveal how ghastly that gamble is. One can easily see why outside the little Western propaganda bubble, much of the world sees the war as a proxy war between the United States and Russia with Ukrainian bodies. Well, if Ukrainians choose to take the gamble, it's their business. But for the U.S. to insist on it, blocking diplomacy as it has been doing, so as to severely weaken Russia, that's very much our business.
How's the energy? You have to convince me otherwise. How's their energy? Good. That's better. We have a list of coming up. I have the pleasure of bringing up a comrade, a friend, someone who has been doing a lot of organizing work in New York City and around, all over actually. My Haitian sister, Kirby Joseph, from the Answer Coalition. Let's give it up for Kirby. So Eugene to hold my purse. That's what comrades do. How are we feeling? How are we doing? Who got the power? Who got the power? Whose power? Whose power? What kind of power? What kind of power? Okay. Can I ask y'all a few questions? Is that okay? Can I interrogate y'all for a little bit? Is that all right? Okay. We are here to demand an end to the U.S. war machine, right? We are here to demand an end to imperialism, right? We are here to demand peace everywhere, right? Is that right? Then family, can I call you that? Can we be family? If those are our demands, then we have to take the time to talk about the current political situation in Haiti. Because in coordination with Washington, Canada began a significant deployment into Haiti. A deployment that includes significant amount of weapons, significant amount of surveillance technology, and thousands of boots have been on the ground in Haiti for weeks. And this isn't the first time that Haiti has been invaded, whether it be overtly or covertly. Haiti has been invaded by imperialists since its revolution in 1804. Can we agree to that? Can we agree to that? Can we agree that U.S. slavery-owning classes threatened by Haiti's revolution chose to isolate Haiti economically and politically and refuse to acknowledge that she is free? Can we adhere to that? France agreed to recognize the Haitian Revolution in 1825, but then made them pay 150 million francs. Because they lost their property, i.e. black bodies. Faced with isolation, Haiti, the land that experienced torture, colonialism, and slavery, has been forced to pay, over the course of a century, $21 billion. A debt that the nation still cannot pay. Let me give you some numbers. Because of Haiti's revolutionary spirit, can we agree to that? Because Haiti dared to be free, can we agree to that? And because Haiti dared to win, can we agree to that? Haiti has experienced 2 coups, 3 dictators backed by the United States, 2 foreign military occupations, 4 fake elections since 2006, and 1 presidential assassination. On top of all of this, Haiti has an 80% unemployment rate, and 60% of the population lives on $2 American a day. A day. But we just left the Washington Post right? Shame, boo. It's media outlets like the Post that will say that the reason why Haiti is in this condition is their fault. Right? The reason why there has to be boots on the ground is because there's a gang issue. Is that true? No. Is that true? No. Is that true? No. In Haiti, every protest is considered an act of terrorism by law. So while workers are asking for their basic rights to exist, they're being called gang members. The struggle in Haiti is also a class issue. Can we agree to that? Because I want to give you some more history. Gangs were formed by the ruling class of Haiti to protect their property. You see, anyone can be considered a gang member when it comes to putting profit over people. I guess we're a whole bunch of gang members up in here. Because we're choosing to put people over profit. You're part of the people's gang, is that right? Oh no, don't do gang, don't do that. The UN has introduced cholera into the country. Peacekeepers, UN peacekeepers, have committed acts of egregious violence all over the country. Acts of violence that still have no accountability, and yet there are 1,000 more of these so-called peacekeepers on the ground in Haiti right now, arresting people, destroying their homes, making people go missing. It is not the Haitian people that are committing these acts of violence. It's the UN solution in Haiti that is committing these acts of violence. And why? Because Haiti was the first black nation in the Western Hemisphere to be free. Destabilizing Haiti is how they continue to make Haiti pay for fighting for its freedom. Haitians on the ground are demanding for us as workers, as radical people, as artists, as protesters here to uplift that they have self-determination. They are demanding for us to uplift the truth about Haiti. They want us to break our chains here. Haitians are watching us. They're rooting for us to end the war machine in the country. Yeah. I want to leave with this. Can we break our chains? Yeah. Can we break our chains? Yeah. I want to teach y'all some Creole before I get off this mic, okay? There's a Haitian Creole saying that says Kimberley. Say it with me. Kimberley. Say it. Kimberley. That means hold on, hold tight, hang in there. Haitians want us to hold tight and hang into this struggle. Haitians want us to hold tight and hang on to resistance. Haitians want us to hold tight and fight for liberation. That is our work. Can we Kimberley? Can we Kimberley? One more time. Kimberley. Thank you.
Ain't no power like the power of the people, but the power of the people don't stop. Ain't no power like the power of the people, but the power of the people don't say what? Ain't no power like the power of the people, but the power of the people don't stop. Say what? Ain't no power like the power of the people, but the power of the people don't stop. All right, y'all. I'm about to make an announcement that is only for the New Yorkers that came from the buses in Union Square or from the People's Forum. Don't nobody else get up and leave. Buses are going to be on 12th and 1st Avenue. I hope I said that right. And folks are actually meeting outside New York Avenue. New York Avenue. And folks are meeting outside to be able to get on the bus.
And so, again, that's for the New Yorkers that came. Union Square, TPL. Nobody else gets a pass. They have to.
Look, y'all got to stick with us here because we want to make sure everybody who did something to build this demonstration has the opportunity to speak. And we want to make sure that people don't have to go home before they have the opportunity to give you important information and critical information. So we're going to make a quick edit to the program here. I want to bring up the comrade Julian to speak here on behalf of the people of Eritrea, the All African people.
So I noticed that in the chants today, when we talked about economic warfare, like removing sanctions and talking about how sanctions kill, we mentioned Iran, Venezuela, Palestine, we mentioned so many of these other countries, but how many of y'all here have heard of Eritrea? That's great. Today I just wanted to talk briefly about why it's really important that we include Eritrea in that list as we advocate for the removal of sanctions and all U.S. and Western-led warfare. So first, I think it's important to note that the history of Eritrea and the Eritrean people's struggle is so important and often forgotten. When you look up or Google Eritrea today or tomorrow, you'll probably see maybe something by the Human Rights Watch or Amnesty International. But we know that those are what? Forms of soft power imperialism. So look at that. Right. What you won't see are stories about our freedom fighters and EPLF, the Eritrean People's Liberation Front, who's a Marxist-Leninist group based on people's values. We are a population of 3 million people, and we've defeated Italian colonization, colonial occupation. Until today, since we got our independence in 1991, we have refused NGO presence, we have refused the IMF, we have refused the World Bank. We are one of the only African countries who refuse to have an AFRICOM base. So, why do you think we have sanctions slapped onto us today? Post-independence in 1991, after only a few years of getting to really revel in our independent nature, we were slapped on with sanctions. Why? Because we're a part of the war on terror. I guess we're terrorists because we want to exercise our independence, our right to self-determination, and our economic and political free will. I think it's important to note that the impact on sanctions in Eritrea are dire and vast. We are not only limited, similar to Cuba, in accessing basic necessary goods. We have to be honest, sanctions are a form of mass murder. The state of Eritrea is actively being targeted by the United States and the European Union for exercising our independence. They don't like that we are spreading the idea of self-reliance and anti-imperialism across the continent today. But despite resisting decades of destabilization efforts and economic warfare, we have continued to make strides to develop our country. I mean, compared to the U.S., we actually have equal pay. We actually have free education for all. We have free access to health. A country and an egalitarian society for all Eritrean people, and we deserve to make light of this and create international solidarity so that all African people, all colonized people, all working class people have the same rights and can exercise the same independence as we do. And it's important to say humanity. What is the antagonism of humanity? And that is capitalism, imperialism, and all other predatory formations that arise. So, Eritrea, and I want to just end this real quick with saying, we have a very important saying that our freedom fighters had said as they spent 30 years in the struggle, and it's awet na hafash. Can y'all say it for me? Awet na hafash, okay? That means victory to the masses. Awet na hafash. Awet na hafash. Thank you guys.
Thank you. Hello everyone, I'm Joe Lombardo. I'm the coordinator of the United National Anti-War Coalition. I want to tell you how beautiful you look. Down here, up there, but especially in the streets as we march today. It was a wonderful sight. We are the vanguard of a new anti-imperialist, anti-war movement that is coming together. Groups have come together to build this rally, and this is step one. We're going to go all the way, and we're going to stop imperialism. Just like propaganda and censorship around this war in Ukraine has divided the left, has divided the anti-war movement, so did the censorship and the government's policies of not telling the truth about Syria divided the peace movement back then. But you know, there's lots of people in the Syrian community who protested anyway. I joined 1,000 members of the Syrian community in a march in Washington, D.C. a couple of years ago to protest U.S. policy in Syria. Today we have with us Johnny Achi, who's from Syrians, Arab Americans for Syria. He's going to tell us what that struggle is about. He's going to tell us how we can all join together and build this movement for all of us.
Sure. All right, guys. We're here today carrying a new sign that says "End the Siege on Syria." It's no longer about sanctions. It's a siege now, and I'll get to that in a minute. I don't have time to tell you the story about Syria, but you probably have heard it, and this is the best crowd to know. This had been a regime change proxy war on Syria. If you don't believe it by now, then just ask Seymour Hersh. Ask multiple people who, Hamad bin Jassim, and I need to tell you this because this just been out. Hamad bin Jassim was the prime minister and the foreign minister of that tiny little nation of Qatar that had a lot to do with the destruction of Libya and then Syria. He lost his job in 2013 like General Petraeus lost his job, like everybody lost his job. They couldn't not overturn the government. So he just came on RT and literally said in the first year alone, $2 trillion was spent to oust the Syrian government. $2 trillion paid for, we knew they were paying soldiers to defect so they can put them on the Jazeera, but I didn't know the lowest paid was $15,000, and the few tiny little ranked officers, $30,000, all the way to $1 million. $2 trillion were spent, in his own words, flooding weapons into Syria. He said, Qatar and Saudi paid for it, Turkey got into Syria with cooperation with the CIA. Weapons were flooding into Syria because they thought the biggest spray now is going to happen. Syria is the biggest spray. We all know General Wellesley Clark. Syrians know that interview by heart. When he said he went into the Pentagon and they told him we're going to attack 7 countries, you all know that, right? And then 5 of them were already done. Iraq, Somalia, Sudan, Lebanon, destabilized. And finally we came to Libya, and it was supposed to be Syria, then Iran. Libya, just a few months earlier, they called it the pretext for Libya. Who remembers what the pretext for Libya? I know you all know about the pretext for Iraq. One for the incubators, or the children, the babies out of the incubators. That's in 91. And then, obviously, the war of the weapons of mass destruction. The Libyans was that Muammar Gaddafi, and this is what was discussed at the United Nations. I don't know what PR firm is advising this, but to build public opinion, Muammar Gaddafi gave Viagra to all his soldiers and told them, give them orders to go rape all the women in Libya. And because of that, we went and bombed this country, killed tens of thousands of people and destroy that country till today. This is one of the richest African countries per capita. So Syria knew it was coming. We didn't know, however, though, that it was coming also from our neighbors, the Gulf states. The Gulf states played a very dirty role in this war on Syria. The prey that they were fighting over, and that's Hamad bin Jassim finishing, he said, every nation knew that Syria is going to fall, so they want a piece of it. So the opposition started to have names of Paris opposition, London opposition, Istanbul oppositions, and we went to the peace conference or peace talks. Syrian government was not involved. It was all these oppositions from Doha, from Istanbul, and from Riyadh trying to divide, and at the same time they were sending weapons to their factions in Syria. And these factions end up fighting each other, and that's when they say, and the prey got away. We got away, yes, but we paid a heavy price. 100,000 Syrians from just the Syrian army were fighting mercenaries because Syrians refused to take a fight. They were living a great life. Ask any Syrian back in 2010. We were living a great life. We did not want that exported democracy and exported freedom that America was bringing to Iraq and Libya. We saw it in our own eyes, and we dared to say no. We dared to say no. And sanctions were not new. Sanctions has been on Syria since 1979. 1979 sanctions, guys, because we dare to say no. We support the Palestinian freedom. We support the PLO. Till today, we believe in free Palestine from the river to the sea. That is just us Syrians, and that's why we're paying all that price. In this earthquake, quickly about the earthquake, thousands lost their lives. But what was so painful for us, same earthquake hit two countries. One country got all the help in the world, all the support and empathy, and the cradle of civilization got none. Biden couldn't even lift the sanctions for 1 week so we can get equipment. We took people out of, we heard people tell stories about we left them to die because we couldn't get them out because we were taking them out with our bare hands when we could have done better. But why are we now calling it a siege? Because the U.S. is occupying 1/3 of Syria, where 2/3 of the resources are, the oil and the wheat. They're looting and stealing our oil and wheat, and the Syrians are left to die hungry. Syrians are asking for your help today. They're not asking for donations. They're not asking for handouts. They're asking you to come talk to your representative and tell them, Biden, tear down that siege over Syria. Tear down
let's just give a round of applause for everyone that's still in this room right now. My name is I am an organizer with CODEPINK, and I am based here in Washington, D.C., belly of the beast, but also on stolen Piscataway and Nahotchunk land. A couple of our speakers today from Guam and Hawaii will be talking about some of the indigenous-led fight against the military bases and imperialism in their communities, and I also just want to draw those parallels to where we are right now. I also am so excited that we are here teaching each other, but sometimes a lot of this information are things that we know, and we really want to take this beyond the walls of this church and bring in more and more people. As we have seen funding communities, not war, and funding the people's needs, a lot of the people who have 2 or 3 jobs can't make it out to things like this. Or folks who are fighting for housing and against incarceration and all of these things can't make it out to here. So we really want to bring more people in and to talk with each other about how we can further take action leading up. So after this is all over, at 5 o'clock, we're going to be meeting at Busboys and Poets for people to talk about what we can do more. But please follow the organizations, CODEPINK, Answer, People's Forum, PSL, and so many other ones that are in this room to really take action in the streets with us moving forward. So please give it up for that. I'm now going to introduce
someone who came all the way from Guam, Nick Flores.
U.S. out of Guam! U.S. out of Guam! U.S. out of Guam!
Half the day, everybody. Half the day, everybody. My name is Nate Flores, and I am a member of Protect the Texan, Save Eritrea, and I flew 24 hours from Guam across the international date line to be here with you all today because what's happening in Guam is a very serious issue. So it's a day ahead in Guam, so I come from the future. I'm just kidding. So Guam is the southernmost island in the Marianas Archipelago, and all of the Marianas Islands are extremely vulnerable right now to war. If the United States enters into conflict with China, our islands will once again be forcefully occupied and destroyed by war. I don't know if many of you know that during World War II, our island was occupied by Japanese forces and then violently recaptured by the United States. Our island was carpet bombed, and we are still finding munitions from World War II all over the island, including land that's outside of the bases. We are looking at contamination from nuclear radiation fallout from the Marshall Islands. We are looking at Agent Orange contamination from the Vietnam War era. We are looking at PFAS and PFAS contamination right now. Every single well that the Navy has returned to our waterworks cannot be used because of PFAS contamination. They are poisoning us. They are desecrating our ancestral burials. They have taken away land after the war. My family lost hundreds of acres of land. So Chamorro families lost thousands of acres, including land at this ancient village, La Texan. So, I'm sorry, I'm getting a little emotional because my Our land was created, our creation story, we're two brothers, or a brother and a sister. And when the brother was this ancient spirit, Ponsen was going to go to the next realm. His sister Fortna took his eyes and made the sun and the moon, his eyebrows and made the rainbows, his back to make the land, his chest to make the sky. And Fona, when she was about to go to the next realm, turned her body into a rock and broke open, and the first people emerged and went into canoes to go all over the earth. So in essence, we are all lost Chamorros. We're all Tatatanu. We're all people of the land. Woo. And so I would also like to invite all of you. This is such a beautiful day, and we want to see some of you come to Gohan to stand in solidarity with us. We need you. We will be needing you because in the next year, the United States is bringing the Marines from Okinawa to Guam. They have cleared over 1,000 acres of limestone forests to build a new Marine base and a live fire training range complex where they will release 7 million ammunitions a year over our sole source aquifer that provides our island 80 to 90% of our fresh drinking water. They have applied to open burning and open detonation on ancestral land and over our aquifer. They are poisoning our coastlines. Right now our fisher folks are finding fish with tumors in them at contamination sites. And culturally, we do not waste the fish we catch, we eat them. So we are eating contaminated fish. It can go on and on, and I can go on and on and on. But I need you all to think about this. Really, we need you all to think about Guam, to think about Gohan, to think about the Medianas. Please don't forget us, and we need you to come and stand in solidarity with us.
Person we're going to introduce is from the Odessa Solidarity Committee. But before that, I want to read a little message that was sent to us from some friends in Ukraine. Although you probably don't know, because the U.S. media won't tell you this, that the majority of people who left Ukraine for another country as refugees to escape the war and the fighting have gone to Russia. Twice as many have gone to Russia as have gone to Poland. And just about as many that have gone to Russia have gone to all other European countries. But you won't learn that. In Russia, some of the people have put together, some of the Ukrainians have put together an organization, and they oppose the Kiev government. And they sent us a message. I'm only going to read a couple of lines of it because it's long, but it will go up online and you'll be able to see it. Dear comrades, the Union of Political Immigrants and Political Prisoners of Ukraine endorses your brave effort for peace in Ukraine. We wholeheartedly welcome and support the launch of a major campaign by the public of the United States and other countries for peace in Ukraine. In particular, we support your great event of March 18th. Our great and warmest wishes for success in your struggle, and with great wish for peace, the Union of Political Immigrants and Political Prisoners of Ukraine. The Odessa Solidarity Committee was formed before the most recent actions and fighting that have gone on in Ukraine to go to Odessa on May when the right-wing fascists burnt and killed about 50 people and wounded over 100 at the House of Trade Unions in Odessa. These people were protesting the coup that took place in 2014 in Kiev, and they were killed by these fascists that came from all over the country to Odessa to fight to do this. And so a number of us went to Odessa to support the people who each year come out and honor those that were killed in large numbers. Thousands of people come out, and the fascists mobilized to try to intimidate them in March. And we've seen on both ends, some of us have been there as international observers to protect them, and the Odessa Solidarity Movement was formed. Phil Alito is its chair. He is also the leader, one of the leaders of the Virginia Defenders for Freedom, Justice, and Equality, Phil Alito.
I understand they're going to cut the sound off on a very sharp schedule, so I'm going to make this quick. What you have heard about Ukraine, and I'm also going to time it because it's always the old white guys who talk too long. I've been to Ukraine. Been to Odessa on the second anniversary of the Odessa massacre. At least 42 people were killed when a mob led by openly fascist organizations drove them into the House of Trade Unions at Kulikulu Square in Odessa, set the building on fire. And the police stood by, and the Ukrainian government has never allowed an international investigation. And 3 of us went there from the U.S. as part of a team of international observers, and when we came back, we formed the Odessa Solidarity Campaign, which you can read about at odessasolidaриtycampaign.org. My point today was to try to tell you about the repression that has been taking place since the right-wing coup of 2014. And that was one of the 3 elements that led to the Russian intervention, along with the steady expansion of NATO and the attacks on the people in Donbass who declared independence because they didn't want to live under a right-wing, anti-Russian, pro-fascist government. Since our visit to Odessa in May of 2016, thousands and thousands of people have been arrested, many of them simply for expressing opposition to the government on social media. A editor of a local newspaper, Yuri Chukov, who I met in Kulikulu Square, was arrested and charged with terrorism charges that are completely bogus, and I wish I had time to go into just explain to you. But we saw the fascist organization, we saw the Azov Battalion, we saw the Right Sector, and these are the groups that came forward to fight the people in Donbass and are now being hailed as heroes, people who honor Stefan Banderas, the head of the Organization of Ukrainian Nationalists, who collaborated with the Nazi occupation and is now a national hero with a stamp, a national stamp dedicated to his honor, and his birthday is a national holiday. Please, you're here today because you don't believe the lies, but we are going to try to keep pumping out information that you can find on Odessa Solidarity Campaign. We demand stop funding fascists in Ukraine. And please, before you leave, pick up a copy of our newspaper, The Virginia Defender, which has been coming out for 19 years with an all-volunteer staff out of Richmond. It has 2 pages on our experiences in Ukraine and the current repression that's going on. Thank you very much. Stay together, and we will win.
Before I introduce our next speaker, I just wanted to hold this up because unfortunately freedom is not free. We have to do what we have to do to make this possible. A lot of very generous people, put money forward to make it possible for us to be here today, to have this venue, to have these signs, to be able to have all the equipment we needed to live stream, to bring some people from different parts of the country who weren't able to make it because they're just working class folks trying to make ends meet. So as you can imagine, we need every dollar we can get, every quarter we can get, every $100 bill we can get, every $1,000 donation on Cash App we can get, every $2 that you might have, reach down underneath the lint. If it's more than 5 cents, I'll take 5 cents too. That's all right. We'll put it all together, and when we come together, we can actually make a huge difference. Everyone doesn't have to have a lot of money for us to come together and have a little bit of money. We're gonna have buckets coming through here. You'll see these buckets. I don't know exactly what's on this sign. You can see there's a QR code there. This might not even be close enough for you. For PayPal, there's a Cash App, $, go to war. We'll put this somewhere. I'll have somebody put this out, maybe on the way out or something like that, so that you can get this various tweets. There's a phone number. You can text 202-953-3531. That's 202-953-3531. Please, please, please. There's buckets coming around. You're more than welcome. Thank you so much. There's a QR code, there's Cash App, there's the whole nine. But all your generosity is greatly appreciated. There is no, George Soros, billionaire money, despite what you might read on the internet. It's just people like you. So we appreciate that 100%. So thank you, everybody. Give yourselves a round of applause for being here today. Just for being with us. I do want to bring up our next speaker, and we're very honored to have him here. We had Julian speak earlier. The Eritrean American community has been doing a lot to promote the work that we've been doing, around a lot of anti-imperialist issues, and really is a country that is truly targeted in the same way many of the other countries you've heard here are. And there are a lot of efforts going on to push back against the sanctions, to push back against the isolation. So from the Eritrean American Public Diplomacy Group, I want to bring up Emmanuel Gibbons and say a few words to us.
Good afternoon. What are we here to say today? No more. No more to wars. No more to proxy wars. No more to wars of aggression. No more to sanctions. I am here after Julian earlier came out and told you how Eritrea succeeded, what Eritrea was able to achieve. I would like to tell you why Eritrea was able to achieve that. And in order to give you a brief, in order to give you an understanding why, I'm going to give you a little bit of history. When the United States first came to Africa, the first place that they came in is Eritrea. The war of aggression in Africa started in 1941 in Eritrea. And this is something that a lot of people may not know. And it continued until the Ethiopian government took over with the acquiescence of the United States in 1960 to annex Eritrea. The struggle for independence of Eritrea started in 1961. And the reason Eritrea was completely, didn't have a chance to survive at all. Eritrea was able to come to the level that it is today for one reason, and that is because of the people of Eritrea determined. They said one thing, Hafash Yinka Yuwadat Ita'ada, which means, Hafash means the masses. Yinka means let it be informed, educated, and organized. Yuwadat means organized. And the Eritrean people were organized, and through that, they were armed, and they were able to persevere for 80 years, up until now. Even after independence in 1991, the United States, first with Bush, and after that with the Clinton administration, continued their proxy wars against Eritrea. Eritrea was sanctioned. And because we believe in that self-reliance, because we believe in the victory for the masses, because we believe in always being educated, being informed, organized, and being one. This is the only way we are going to be able to defeat anything that comes. We have to be informed what's going on. I can say a lot about everything that's happening right now and how it's impacting what Eritrea is doing. But what we went through is simply a miracle that we were able to achieve this, and that we are able to do it because we were united, organized, and we persevered. And this is what's being asked from everyone here.
As you know, in the next few days, It's the 20th anniversary of the invasion of Iraq. There's other anniversaries too. It's the 25th anniversary of the U.S. bombing Yugoslavia. It's also a very important anniversary because 20 years ago, our next speaker, who had been a colonel in the military and had been a diplomat, I think she was the under-ambassador to Outer Mongolia at the time, looked at what the United States did in invading and occupying Iraq and said, enough, and she quit. And since she's been an anti-war activist,
I resigned from the stupid-ass government of the United States. We have more stupid things our government's doing, lying us into wars, lying us into war on China, North Korea, all of these places that do not want to have a war with the United States, but the U.S. seems to want a war with them. And we are here to say no to war. No more war, we say. Let's have some money for the poor and not for war. And I'd also like to make sure we remember those people that have helped get the word out, like Julian Assange, and thanks WikiLeaks. Free Julian Assange! Free Julian Assange! Free Julian Assange! And no more war! No more war!
That was fast. What a legacy. Let's give it up for Anne again. Also, I wanted to clarify my announcement. It's K Street Busboys and Poets because people were asking. So after this, please join us again. Someone who works very closely with Anne Wright in Hawaii is after the catastrophic naval fuel ships that leaked and poison the water of over 100,000 people, really making the intersections of the climate crisis, environmental degradation, and the war machine. And here to talk more about that, from Shutdown Red Hill Mutual Aid is Mikey.
Aloha kākou. I want to teach you something real quick. Ola ikabai. Yeah, that means water is life. So, ola ikabai. Yeah? So ready? Ola ikabai. Ola ikabai. All right, thanks. So my name is Mikey. I'm a Korean and Japanese settler in occupied Hawaii. I'm a water protector, and I'm so grateful to be with you all here today to tell you about a very special place on Oahu, the island where I was born and raised. It's a place called Kapukaki, otherwise known as Red Hill. Nearly 80 years ago, the U.S. Navy constructed a massive underground facility in Red Hill, storing up to 250 million gallons of toxic fuel, sitting less than 100 feet above our sole source aquifer that provides water to nearly 500,000 people on the island. In 2021, the U.S. Navy leaked over 19,000 gallons of JP5 jet fuel from the Red Hill facility and contaminated over 93,000 homes. Over the following weeks, the Navy lied over and over and over again to the thousands of people falling violently ill from the toxic exposure to jet fuel in their water. They lied to civilians, Native Hawaiians, and their own service people, as children and babies screamed in pain through the night, their throats on fire, their tiny bodies covered from head to toe in sores and rashes. Our community did not take this neo-colonial violence lying down. We rose up as one to demand the U.S. military shut down Red Hill immediately. And after just 3 months of concerted organization, mobilization, and agitation, we forced the Department of Defense to concede to our demands. We secured a commitment to shut down Red Hill. But our fight for our basic right to clean water continues. Over 1 year later, over 100 million gallons of toxic jet fuel still sit in these decrepit, leaking World War II era storage tanks. To make matters worse, the Navy recently spilled 1,300 gallons of AFFF concentrate from Red Hill. AFFF is a fire-suppressing foam containing enough of a forever chemical known as PFAS to contaminate tens of trillions of gallons of water for centuries. Right now, as I'm speaking to you, the Shutdown Red Hill Mutual Aid Collective is distributing 300 cases of water to families still being poisoned by jet fuel contaminated water more than a year after the Hawaii State Department of Health declared the water was once again safe to drink. Now, some of you may be wondering, what does any of this have to do with Russia and Ukraine, right? The answer to that question is everything. Everything. The decisions made in D.C. directly impact the ongoing illegal U.S. military occupation and active contamination of Hawaii's sovereign lands and waters. Every single one of those $113 billion in U.S. aid going to fight the NATO-fueled proxy war with Russia and Ukraine is used to justify every acre of land and every gallon of water being actively contaminated by the U.S. military on Oahu. The consent they manufacture here to fight the war over there maintains the illegal U.S. occupation of Hawaii. But you need our military to keep you safe, they say, right? Don't you understand? Freedom isn't free, right? We're poisoning your children and contaminating your water to protect you from Russia and China. So it's like we're living in a horror movie where the capitalist class plays the role of our poorly disguised murderers. And just like in every slasher film, the true killers aren't separated by an ocean or a fence. The call is coming from inside the house. But I come to you today not as a victim crying out for help, but as a comrade in a shared struggle against a common enemy. Yes, what happens here and in Ukraine affects what happens in Hawaii, but it's a two-way street. Our anti-imperialist struggle in Hawaii affects what happens in Soledar, in Bakhmut, in Severodonetsk, in Okinawa, in Guam, in Gaza, in East Palestine, in Camp Lejeune, in Flint, Michigan, in Jackson, Mississippi, and in Washington, D.C. Our fight to protect Russian water is your fight too. And your fight is ours. Because an injury to one is an injury to all. And an injury to water is an injury to all of us. Because we are water, and water is us. And just like the water we protect, we too are sacred. We too are worthy of protection. We are the water protecting itself. And when we join our waters together, we can turn a light rain into a torrential downpour. We can turn a tiny pond into a sea of solidarity. We can turn a small stream into a river of revolution. And when we join our waters together, that we will finally achieve our collective liberation. And no dams, no encroachments, no weapons of war, no great power in the world, not even the U.S. military, will be able to contain us. Only power. We will end proxy war in Ukraine. We will abolish NATO, and we will shut down Red Hill. Because we are water, and water is life. Only power.
We're moving along quickly, so we'll be done soon. Hope you can stay to the end. I had the privilege in October to be in a demonstration led by the Bronx Anti-War Coalition in the Bronx, New York. And I was really impressed with that demonstration because there were just a number of community groups that came forward and started making the connection between the struggles they have in the streets of the Bronx and the wars. And the person that main organizer of that demonstration from the Bronx Anti-War Coalition and from the International Action Center is Richie Marino, who's going to speak next.
Thank you, Joe. All right, so I want to start off by my favorite chant. How do you spell racist? N-A-T-O. How do you spell fascist? N-A-T-O. How do you spell terrorist? N-A-T-O. How do you spell terrorist? N-A-T-O. All right, good afternoon, everyone. My name is Richie. As Joe said, I'm with the Bronx Anti-War Coalition. I'm also representing the International Action Center, United National Anti-War Coalition. I write for Workers' World, and I'm a member of Workers' World, and I'm also a proud public school teacher in the South Bronx. So, shout out to the teachers out there. So just days after the Biden administration proposed their egregious $900 billion military budget, the U.S. Federal Reserve printed $300 billion to bail out two banks that were too big to fail. Let me be very clear. This is a bailout for the rich, a bailout for Silicon Valley tech companies, venture capital firms, and private equity. Boo! And at a time when we're struggling to pay for rent, groceries, gas, and energy bills, we need to start asking ourselves, when will we, the workers, get a bailout? When will we, the people of the South Bronx, of Flint, Michigan, of DC, of East Palestine, Ohio, get the funding that we deserve for quality education, safe transportation, guaranteed jobs with benefits, housing, clean air, and water? So if the U.S. government can bail out billionaires and send $150 billion to fuel a proxy war in Ukraine, then they sure as hell can bail out the people. Do y'all agree? So the U.S. is also preparing for and provoking a hot war with China because China's peaceful economic rise is regarded as a threat to U.S. global hegemony. Such a war has the potential to destroy humanity. China wants peace, they want cooperation, they want win-win development. China is not our enemy. Do y'all agree? Our enemy is Western imperialism, with NATO and the U.S. government running the agenda. They use Russia and China as scapegoats to distract from their failures to provide us, the people, with the basic needs. Our enemies are the capitalists and imperialist warmongers in the U.S. government, whose only purpose is to guarantee the profits of Wall Street and the military-industrial complex through regime change and interventionist wars. So, if y'all agree, I want to hear you make some noise. No more endless wars. Feed the people, not the U.S. war machine. End the U.S. NATO proxy war against Russia and the people of the Donbass. End U.S. military provocations against China and the Democratic People's Republic of Korea. Lift the sanctions on Cuba, Syria, Iran, Nicaragua, Venezuela, Eritrea, Zimbabwe, and all nations and people exercising self-determination. Free Palestine. Defund the Pentagon, shut down all U.S. military bases, and abolish NATO.
I want to reiterate what he said, that China's not our enemy, but our common enemy is the climate crisis. And up next, we are going to have Teddy from CODEPINK talk about those extremely stark intersections between anti-militarism and the climate crisis.
When I say no war, you say no warming. No war. No warming. No war. No warming. When I say decolonize, you say decarbonize. Decolonize. 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 Recently, a new friend of mine asked what I do, and I answered. I said I work at the intersection of military and climate. And before I could ask what they do, they said, "Oh, well, what does military and climate have to do with each other? What does military have to do with climate?" What do you think I said? Nothing, something, or everything. Nothing, something, or everything. The military has absolutely everything to do with the climate crisis. And as we fight for peace, we are fighting for a future on this planet. The capitalist and militarist system that we have been forced into, that we are fighting, is one that views our world and all the life on it, human and animal, as resources, not relatives. It's the other way around. Relatives, not resources. Relatives, not resources. Relatives, not resources. Relatives, not resources. It is not a coincidence that Cop City in Atlanta, boo! A $90 million training center to train up more killer cops across the United States will also be used to train Israeli IDF soldiers to enforce the occupation in Palestine. That is not a coincidence. That is by design. It is not a coincidence that over the course of the war in Ukraine, fossil fuel companies profited madly while they made consumers suffer and pay for it. Did you see those gas prices last year? They said that was simply because of the war in Ukraine. They were price gouging every single one of us. Is that right? And it's not a coincidence that after seeing those profits like a shark tasting blood, the Biden administration has signed the approval for the Willow Project. The Willow Project, the most massive oil and gas extraction project ever proposed on federal land, on indigenous land and traditional hunting grounds in Alaska. It was disapproved by this administration, this warmonger president, this dirty fuel president. It is not a coincidence that last year's military budget totaled $858 billion, 28 times what Biden managed to scrounge up for the climate. That is not a coincidence. So because we know war has everything to do with climate change, let's make it our job to uplift that. Our fight for peace is a fight for climate justice and vice versa. And because of that, as loud as we are, we need to get even louder. Because if we win, we won't just achieve peace. We will have made a significant dent in environmental injustice the world over. We just heard U.S. out of Guam. U.S. out of Guam. U.S. out of Guam. U.S. out of Guam. And we just heard from our friend from Oahu, where Red Hill continues to poison communities. U.S. out of Hawaii. U.S. out of Hawaii. U.S. out of Hawaii. Militarized police here in the United States are not keeping us safe. They're here to protect capital and property. That's it. That's the same with our military abroad. They are there for extraction purposes only. They do not keep us safe. And as if after today you need another reason to call for peace in Ukraine, the environmental catastrophes caused by this war are unprecedented. Farmland will not be arable for decades to come. And the fossil fuel emissions from the war alone is the same as if a new European, mid-sized European country had sprouted up out of nowhere and began emitting fossil fuels. Shame, that's right. So, 1 month from now, about a month from now, it's going to be Earth Day. And on Earth Day, I hope everyone in this room can bring a message of peace to climate actions, because we need to cut the lifeblood of the war machine. We need to end fossil fuel use and extraction the world over. Our lives, all of our lives depend on it, both at the site of extraction and colonialism, and because the climate crisis faces all of us in the near term. So I want to say money for climate and education, not for war and occupation. Thank you all so much for being here.
We only have 3 more quick speakers. We ask them to be very quick. The next person is Wyatt Miller. Wyatt is from the Freedom Road Socialist Organization, and he's also a member of the Administrative Committee of UNAC. Long live international solidarity! Long live international solidarity! Long live international solidarity! So my name is Wyatt Miller. As Joe said, I'm here representing Freedom Road Socialist Organization. I'm also with the UNAC AC. I'm also here from Minneapolis, where I organize with a group called the Minnesota Anti-War Committee, where we've been organizing and saying no to the U.S. NATO proxy war against Russia, which uses Ukraine as its battlefield and Ukrainians as its cannon fodder since day one. In the FRSO, we believe the U.S. empire is enemy number 1 to the people of the world who wish to live their lives in peace, with dignity, and free of economic and military domination. Don't let the unprecedented military spending fool you. This U.S. imperialist system is in decline. Is that good? Yes, exactly. But that's why we're seeing the U.S. imperialist system lash out so recklessly against China, against Russia, and all of its other targets, as these contradictions in the world economy and the imperial system sharpen. So we need to stop it once and for all, and sooner.